Today I'm going to be talking about what took me from an absolute horrific artist in terms of drawing anatomy and what actually made me improve whenever I'm drawing anatomy. So I'm not talking about Kim Jong-il level here. I'm talking about going from like absolutely horrific drawings, anatomical drawings to, making good art is essentially what I'm trying to say. So first of all, the first thing that helped me is that, you need to get like a simple PDF. I would say, first of all, I'll say be patient with yourself. And then the next thing I would say, take a simple PDF and, PDF or like physical copy of any anatomical book and just practically copy everything in that book. And when I mean copy, I mean like draw everything back to back, like each page, draw everything as much as possible. And that might take a while. And I don't mean draw it once, I mean draw it over and over and over again. I mean draw it a couple of times. I mean force yourself to remember the shapes that actually make up whatever muscle or whatever an actual like anatomical part of the body looks like. And that is the only way you would get better. Not the only way. Not the only way. I'm not sitting here on a pedestal telling you that the best at anatomy or anything, but I'm saying that I was awful before and now I'm good and now I'm okay. And just using this my method, it could probably help you. So whenever you're starting, you just pick a PDF, whether it's anatomy for sculptors, whether it's something from Andrew Loomis, whether it's whatever artist that you like or whatever art book that you can get. Just pick one up and just draw. And just draw it over and over and over again. It will make drawing, like for me, the reason why I decided to actively and intentionally improve is because I work on comics and my figure drawings were awful. And I still struggle a lot with them when I draw, but the fact that I've studied anatomy has helped me become at least 1% better. So first of all, be patient with yourself and then take on any PDF. It might take weeks, it might take months, depending on your schedule or whatever priority you have in your life. It will take a while before you get good, and even up to now I don't remember like every single muscle on the surface level of the human body that actually that actually gives the human body its shape, but I remember a decent amount. And that doesn't just I'm not saying you need to remember it. I'm not saying you need to be a doctor or a surgeon. What I'm saying is that when you practice a lot, you eventually will remember it, and eventually, like all these muscles, they are going to stick to your head. But the most important thing you need to understand is the structure and the shape, right? When you understand the structure, you will get better at like the other anatomical parts and anatomical detail, because art is subjective, right? Art is subjective, and different people like different types of art, and art can be expressed in different ways. So I would say you study the basics first, or the fundamentals, which is structure and anatomy, before you then move on to realism. And that is how you will get better. Because if you just start out with style, yes, you might have natural talent in the sense of like getting things instinctively, but ideally you need to understand, you need to start on a good foundation, because that is how whenever you start applying reductions, whenever you start minusing things, taking things out, because of like your own stylistic preferences, it's going to be a whole lot easier. It's going to be a whole lot easier for you. So learn the anatomy fundamentals and the basics, so you can learn with structure. What I mean by structure is that well, my understanding at least is that I mean using simple shapes. So if you are studying like the anatomy of the head, for instance, you use simple shapes like the Andrew Loomis method. For instance, you use a sphere and then you use a box shape to actually get the shape of any head that you are drawing. So something like that, something as simple as that. Whenever you're drawing, studying the anatomy of like the eyes, for instance, using the spherical shape to establish the shape of the eyeballs, and then using simple planes to establish the shape of the eyelids, right? And all these simple techniques, using a triangle or wedge shape to establish the shape of the nose. So all these little techniques and little shapes that would help you simplify a complex anatomical feature on the human body, you sort of learn them, because that is what is going to make it simple. And then when you then advance to like figure drawing, Like, let's say you start from the head, then you move to the neck. I'm talking about the way I studied, rather. I started from the head, then I moved to the neck, then I moved to the torso, and then I moved to the limbs. I moved to the hands, and then I moved to the legs, right? That is how I studied anatomy, right? And when I was studying this, to make the things easier for my brain, I just found a way to break them down into simple shapes like spheres, like cylinders, like cubes, um, like cones, like all these simple shapes that we know of, so that it's going to be easier for my brain and easier for me to remember. And that's what I'll strongly suggest, right? Before you then move on to art style. And then, like, once you've done all this, whenever you have an artist preference that you like, you once you begin studying those artists, it's going to be a whole lot more easier to sort of like replicate their style or even get close to their style. Or like if there's just one single thing you want to pick from those artists, because I suggest you don't study in isolation. You know we have different artists we like, and we have to be specific about the things about those artists that we like. The way I see art style is like getting like a playlist, right? You have a playlist of different songs that you like, or which contains different artists as well. So it's the same thing about art, and like when you're chasing art style, you're going to have different artists you like and different things you like about those artists. Art style is simply about picking something from this artist and then picking another thing from another artist. So you could say, I like the way this artist draws faces, and then you do a lot of studies on drawing that faces. You could say, I like the way this artist draws noses. I like the way he draws expressions. I like the way this artist draws muscles. I like the way this artist draws movements. Maybe like in terms of comics now, like fight choreography. I like how he uses blur lines and things like that. So just little things in terms of like anatomy that you can notice, in terms of art style that you notice once you've studied like a bit of fundamental in terms of like anatomy and regards to figure drawing, you are going to get better. So what I did was that I studied the basics first. I tried to do like a bit of anatomy studies. And another way I improved was that I also tried to teach it. Like I came on YouTube, I went on social media, and then I talked about it. And I am currently talking about it. So me sitting here talking about anatomy is me improving at anatomy, because you can't teach what you don't know. So that is how I worked on it. I looked at how to draw the eyes, how to draw the head, how to draw the nose, how to draw the mouth, how to paint it. I looked at how to do value studies with it, how to draw it in different angles, how to draw the muscles and things like that, before I then finally moved on to like art styles, right? So I did study streams, live study streams, where I studied guys like Takehiko Inoue. I studied guys like Dan Mora. I studied Jim Lee. I studied Ryan Otley. I studied Boichi. I studied Jason Fabok. I studied Jim Lee. I studied David Finch. And I'm still going to keep studying them because I like their art, and their art is something I kind of want to get close to, or kind of want to achieve, or achieve something in that similar regard. And because they do a lot of drawings, they do a lot of superhero drawings and figure drawings, and it's something I want to do. I'm going to keep studying in that regard. I'm sitting here as someone who is not at all very good at perspective or composition or color and light, or values, but I've studied anatomy more, and I'm okay at, I'm not saying I'm perfect, I'm saying I'm decent now, and I'm going to keep trying to improve. And this is what I did to get better. Hopefully it has helped you, hopefully it will help you, right, and to get better. So, and one more thing I forgot to mention is that when you're doing these studies, another thing you can do is that you could get like athletic images, because that is sort of what I did. I would get, like, I like football, so when I'm on Twitter, whenever I see like a team have like a picture of an in-game match of like an athlete, I would take that image and like I could pick any part of the body to focus on. Yeah, I could pick a part of the body to focus on. Like for instance, this Zinedine Zidane image. I could pick the hands to focus on. Let's say if I'm picking up like all these images that I have here, I could decide to focus on the hands. For instance, like study the hands, like the way the hands look, or study the legs, or like study like the position of the torso, right? And when I'm studying them, I'm using simple shapes to break them down. I could use like a vest shape, or like a sphere, or even a box to kind of draw like the relationships between the torso and the hips or the pelvis, like simple things like that. The head angle, I could look at that, whether it's a side profile or like, for instance, this hand holding the ball. So different things. I just get like images of like athletes, because usually they are usually in like a strenuous position, and you're going to get a lot of like dynamic poses and body movements. So that is one thing you could do. You take those images and then you break them down. You break down the muscles, you break down the shapes, and that is how you do the studies over and over again, and that's how you get better at drawing anatomy. That's how you get better at anatomy in general. So this is what I did. These are the studies I did. And another thing you can do is that you take images from like sites like Pinterest or like from the internet in general. You take breakdowns, images of like breakdowns, and you look at them. You look at those breakdowns, and then you can take real photos, or you could even take photos of yourself, or different body types, and then you study them. You could trace simple shapes over them to simplify them, or trace the muscles over those references, and then you copy them, and that is how you get better. At least that is how I got better. Hopefully this has helped you. Hopefully this will help you. This is how I studied, and this is how I got a little bit better, and this is kind of like the approach I'm going to take when drawing perspective. Yeah, and that's it for today. Hopefully the video helped you. If it did, or if it added a little bit of value to you, please just smash the like button. We're trying to get to 2K, and I'll see you in the next video, guys.